Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the scientific committee, especially Dr. Amit Porwal, for inviting me to give this talk on role of OCT in the interpretation of and the diagnosis of glaucoma. As we all know, 40% of the ganglion cells must be damaged before we can pick up a visual field defect. So if we can have an imaging modality which can detect retinal nerve fiber layer at this stage, we can diagnose glaucoma much earlier. Optical coherence tomography plays an important role over here. It's a non-contact, non-invasive, high-resolution 3D imaging. It objectively quantifies the RNFL, optic nerve head, and the macular thickness. Time domain is obsolete. Our talk will be focusing on spectral domain OCT. Swab source is the future of the OCT. Primarily, we have 4 machines and 3 parameters which are to be examined. But we must remember that each machine has different glaucoma scan patterns and software segmentation algorithms. So we cannot compare the data of one machine with another. First of all, we should see the patient details because over here, all the data are managed, matched with the normative database and calculated accordingly. So all the statistical interpretations depend on that. Secondly, we must check the image quality by the signal strength, and each machine has its own acceptable criteria which must be adhered to. Thirdly, we must check the tomograms. There are 2 tomograms of the disc, one in the horizontal meridian and one in the vertical meridian. Over here, we should check for the Brooks membrane opening, which gives us the disc demarcation. The third tomogram is of the RNFL. Over here, we must check the segmentation, whether it has been done properly or not. As I said, signal strength varies from machine to machine. For Cirrus, we must have a minimum criteria of more than 6. For Spectralis, it should be more than 15. It is altered by different conditions like dry eye or cataract or other media opacities. Sometimes a drop of lubricant will not only improve the signal strength, but also give the improved RNFL thickness. Then we come to the RNFL thickness map. Typically shows an hourglass pattern of yellow and red colors over here. The warmer colors are thicker, and we have a color reference scale in microns on the left. Then we go on to the RNFL deviation map. Basically, it's an infast fundus image which gives the disc outline, the cup outline, and the calculation circle. It depicts the deviation from the normative database by color-coded superpixels. Then we move on to the table of disc and RNFL parameters, which are matched with normative database and color-coded. Then we examine the neuroretinal rim thickness and the RNFL thickness, which are given in TS and IT patterns. There are 2 lines. One is the continuous line, one is the hatch line for right eye and left eye respectively, and they are matched with normative database and color coded. Then we move on to the sector and the quadrant map. They specify the location of the pathology. Small defects in the clock hour may be averaged in the sector maps. This is a printout of the other machine, Topcon over here and Spectralis over here. The Spectralis has an advantage that we can change the diameter of the calculation circle from 3.5 to 4.1 and 4.7. This helps us in bypassing any peripapillary pathology. The OCT determines the edge of the disc by the termination of the Brooks membrane, and then we draw a reference plane about 140 microns above this. In case of Cirrus, it varies from machine to machine, and area above this is the rim and below this is the cup. This is a printout from the Topcon machine giving the disc parameters. Every machine has its own segmentation protocols to analyze the ganglion cell complex. The Cirrus includes the IPL and the ganglion cell layer. The OptoView includes also the RNFL, but the Spectralis includes total macular thickness. The advantage is it avoids the major peripapillary pathologies. But the disadvantage is that there are a wide range of comorbid conditions which affect macula, giving us a high false positive. This is a Cirrus printout of the ganglion cell complex analysis. We have a thicker thickness acquisition map. The warmer colors are thicker, and we have a scale over here. Then we have the deviation map, the thickness table, and the sectoral thickness map, which are matched with the normative database and color coded. We should also see the horizontal and the vertical tomograms to see whether the segmentation has been done properly or not. Usually the defects seen on OCT are very well correlated with the visual field defects. Over here is an example of inferior RNFL defects seen on OCT, which is very well correlated with the superior visual field defect. With the ganglion cell complex coming into the picture, we can also correlated very well with the visual field and the RNFL. And over here, this table shows how very well all the three are correlated in different stages of glaucoma. ZEISS has a proprietary software called Fulham, in which it integrates the structural OCT defects with the visual field printouts. Over here, we have the total deviation and the pattern deviation from the visual fields. We have a fundus photograph, and then we have a RNFL deviation map and a ganglion cell deviation map from the OCT, and then they are integrated into the structure function map. Then we have a table of the ONH and the RNFL parameters, which are matched with the normative database and color coded. One important reason for emphasizing this new modalities was that it will help us in detecting glaucoma at an early stage. So I will give a couple of examples over here. In this photograph, we can see there is diffuse neuroretinal rim thinning, but the visual fields are normal. And when we do the OCT, we can see that the extensive loss of RNFL is compatible with the disc damage seen. Another example showing a RNFL defect in the red-free photograph of the fundus, but the visual fields are normal. And when we do the OCT, it confirms the presence of RNFL thinning both on the thickness map and the deviation map, confirming glaucoma. So next we come to pearls and pitfalls. In our over enthusiasm for reading the OCT printouts, we sometimes reach a stage where we label the patient to be glaucomatous or normal depending on the red color or the green color seen in the printouts, thus giving rise to terminologies like red disease and green disease. But we should be very careful because there are many artifacts which may be patient determined like media opacities or operator dependent like signal strength or device dependent. Over here we see the blood vessels causing a shadowing on segmentation causing RNFL thinning. Over here we see a eyeball movement causing motion artifact, thereby we see the horizontal displacement of the images. Sometimes the floater, vitreous floaters come in the, or any other media opacity come in the area of the calculation circle, thereby the RNFL seems to be thinned out. But when we ask the patient to move the eyeball and it moves away from the calculation circle, the RNFL parameters become normal. Here is an example of a spectralis OCT printout showing RNFL thinning. But when we see the fundus, we see that this is a central chorioretinal scar and this is toxoplasmosis and not glaucoma. Here's another printout from Cirrus showing a lot of RNFL thinning over here. And when we see the fundus, we see it's a myopic disc. In myopia, the superotemporal and the inferotemporal arcuate bundles converge temporally. So though the height of the hump is normal, but because it is displaced laterally, so we see a lot of red areas. So this is myopia and not glaucoma. Here's an example. If we see carefully, the disc has not been placed centrally. And when we place the disc centrally, all the red areas disappear. So this is a centration error by the operator. Another printout from the spectralis, if we observe carefully, we see that the RNFL tomogram has not been placed in the center, so causing a lot of red areas. When we place it centrally, the red areas disappear. So this is another example of centration error by the operator. Another printout showing a lot of red areas. In fact, RNFL reaches 0, which is not theoretically possible. This is due to the segmentation error seen in the tomogram over here, seen in high myopia because of posterior staphyloma or peripapillary atrophy. So this is again not glaucoma. We should also remember that the normative database of each machine is very narrow. In case of Cirrus, it is restricted to 284 individuals of age range 18 to 84 years with refractive error -12 to +8 diopter. So any patient who is beyond this normative database will be flagged abnormal statistically, but this does not represent true disease, and we should be cautious in interpreting these OCT scans. OCT has another limitation of floor effect because the RNFL thickness cannot go below 40 microns because of presence of glial tissue and abnormal and blood vessels. So in advanced glaucoma, we have to rely on automated perimetry rather than OCT. Vice versa can also happen. Patient may be glaucomatous but may appear to be normal, so we should not go by OCT. And when we see the fundus photograph, the disc is glaucomatous, but because of the myelinated nerve fibers, the RNFL appears to be thickened. In fact, it appears white, more than 95% of the normative database thickness. So it is called green disease. Then another important role of OCT is it helps us in deciding progression. So there is a software called guided progression analysis. For this, we need 2 baseline examinations and 3 follow-up examinations. So it gives us the RNFL thickness map, and then we have a deviation map in which we can see the deviation, how much it has progressed over the period of time. It also gives us graphs of average thickness of RNFL and the cup disc ratio over a period of time. This trend-based analysis also gives us the rate of change. And if this is statistically significant, then p-values are also given. TSNIT thickness graphs are superimposed of different examinations in this plot, and then it's color coded to show how much it has progressed over a period of time. Like over here, we see a red area which has progressed over a period of time. The RNFL is thinned out. Then we have a table of the summary which gives us whether it is a likely summary or a possible progression or a likely progression. With the ganglion cell complex coming into the picture, we now also have a provision for a Panto map in which we can see RNFL thickness and the ganglion cell thickness in one map. And over here is the baseline Panto map, and over here is the final Panto map, which shows how much it has progressed over a period of time. The progression areas are denoted by these asterisks. Over here, we can see the RNFL thickness map, the ganglion cell thickness map, and the visual field pattern deviation plots, which correlate with clinically. To summarize, OCT alone should not be used to make the diagnosis. An abnormality in OCT requires clinical correlation. Detecting progression can be challenging because of scans of different quality and age-related loss of RNFL. So machine cannot replace man. It is man plus machine. OCT angiography will play a very important role in future in helping us in the diagnosis of glaucoma. Thank you for your patient hearing.